Hello, hello, hello.
Hello, what's going on, everyone?
How is everyone doing?
I'm doing great, Andy.
Yeah?
I'm doing great.
That's so great. Today is the first episode of Jumpcut.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I'm so excited.
I'm so pumped.
So what are we talking about today?
We are talking about The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, the new one, the better one, the amazing one, Ben Stiller.
This is my favorite top four. I lied.
Top four movie. Yeah, absolutely.
Ever.
Honestly, this is it switches. It's like absolutely one of my favorite movies of all time. And then sometimes it's like my number 4, sometimes number 5, but anytime in the moment, it's in the top 5, always.
Absolutely.
Also, for everyone that doesn't know, my name is Luke McGowan.
And I am Andy Neal.
Awesome, yeah.
You can follow us on Instagram at JumpCut107.1.
Yes, and listen to us every Wednesday at 1 to 2 p.m.
That would make us so happy if you
It's
did that.
super, super happy. But yeah,
So Walter Mitty,
yes.
there's one thing I noticed specifically in this specific watch through that I watched last night in preparation for the show, is the use of color. I love color. I was in AP art in high school. Just color is something that I've always loved, and I also really like Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey.
Yep.
It's Hero with a Thousand Faces. I've read that book more times than someone who's dyslexic probably should.
Absolutely.
But there's a very distinct thing in the film of the use of the color red and the use of the color blue and how it relates to the hero's journey.
And that's where I'm gonna have to rely on you, Andy, because I'm colorblind, and I know I picked up on it maybe, to some extent, but not as much as you. So
Basically, the general premise of the hero's journey is that there is a known world and an unknown world that the protagonist needs to. This isn't for every story, but they leave their known world through the call to action, and then they go to the unknown world, and that is so blatant in the use of blue and red. Blue symbolizes the known world. Everything Walter knows, everything he is blue. The very first shot of the movie, he's wearing blue. The background's blue. He's on the website eHarmony,
yeah.
and that's blue. And he clicks a heart, and it turns red, which is the very first huge decision he makes
Yes.
in the film.
And so, for everyone that doesn't know, this movie is about this man named Walter, and he's about taking all these risks in his life. That's how kind of it starts off. So he's a magazine person at life. He takes all the negatives and turns them into the cover photos from many different photographers. One main character named John. At one point in the film, they realize that life is moving online, and so they're transitioning to cutting some people, laying some people off, and Walter gets the last cover photo for the Secret Life, for the Life magazine, and then all of a sudden he loses it. He cannot find it, and he risks losing his job, risks losing his coworkers' jobs, and so all this time he needs to find that lost cover photo from Sean, and he needs to go on this journey, to this hero's journey. Essentially, it sounds cliche, but really it is, to find this cover photo while risking his job. And then throughout the film, there's also a subtle, not so subtle, but like there's a love life kind of thing in that, and just like this idea of finding oneself throughout the film, and then that's how it explores throughout the rest of the movie. So.
Absolutely. I think it goes without saying that we're about to spoil the entire movie in the next hour.
Yes.
So I highly encourage everyone to go watch this, and DM us. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, let us know
DM
what you think. Please.
Yeah, so I think the first thing I want to talk about is Walter, and he has a condition called maladaptive daydreaming.
Absolutely.
And it's where your imagination is so strong and powerful that you kind of lose track of reality and what's true and what's fiction. And we all know someone who's like this, who like, you can't just tell a story of I went to the mall. No. You went to the mall and
there was a car crash. The police were there. I jumped out, saved the person in the car crash.
Exactly. It's very common in storytelling, and that's just how the brain works. And throughout the film, it leaves you questioning what's real and what's fake.
Mm-hmm.
But as the course of the film, it happens less and less and less as reality gets crazier and crazier and crazier, and Walter is more confident in himself and what he's doing, and it's
in a
beautiful.
lot of ways his daydream becomes his real life, and it's so very, I mean, it's blatant poetism, but it's absolutely poetic in every way.
Oh,
so
this movie rhymes. Every
it's
single
beautiful.
thing is.
That's a gas line. This movie rhymes.
It's so great. Escapism is also what can be perceived with.
Yeah. So I think that is so. We make a joke with it throughout the entire film of him zoning out, and so a lot of the people deem it as something so negative. And I mean, Walter views it as negative himself. And there's a lot of plot points within the film that actively are harmed by him zoning out, from him being in this daydreaming world where he doesn't realize that his mom told him something that we find out much later in the film was a very important plot line.
Huge
plot line about one of the other characters named Sean. But this entire time, he's not zoning out because he's sad. He's not zoning out because he's like wishing for a better life. I mean, maybe in some ways he's wishing for a better life, and actually in a lot of ways he's wishing for a better life. But at the end of the day, he keeps going on his path, and the first time he really stops daydreaming is after Ground Control to Major Tom. What's that song's name? Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
And that's the last real daydream he has.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest transition from crazy life and normality life.
Yeah, absolutely. Back to color in Hero's Journey, there's something I noticed most recently in my watch through is it's everywhere. If you're looking for it and have the cones in your eyes to process and know what's going on. There's in the scene at Central Park with Cheryl and her son Rich, they're discussing, she brings up, hey, you should go and try to find Sean. And this is the very first time that the background and the surrounding atmosphere isn't heavily blue.
Really?
It's green, and it's a warm green tone, and I like it because he hasn't made the jump yet. He hasn't decided to go. It's the call to action. That's why everything's green. And when he decides to go, the airplane is bright red. The ticket booth, bright red.
The red car.
They're it's laid out so beautifully. He gets there and they're like, do you want the blue car or the red car? And he takes the red car because he took the jump and he's ready.
He's ready to go. So, and then he is in that transitional period. And I see, as someone who I can't really tell the colors as well as Andy can, I still can present how much this changes. The entire film goes from the life building itself is very blue, and a lot of the characters there are shameful of that blue tone. I feel like they're very quiet, reserved. The other, what's that? The Beard Man.
He sucks.
He's horrible.
He's the worst.
Horrible.
The boss of Life magazine.
Yeah, the boss of the transition. He represents in a lot of ways this blue idea, this blue character that just doesn't want Walter or really anyone to be themselves, to really risk themselves and take these risks. And that's also something I really want to talk about. Aside from the colors, this film is a lot about risk taking. And so the first thing we have in the film is this one click, and it transitions from that blue screen of eHarmony.com to an error screen, funny enough, but still, it was that risk of clicking that button. And then throughout the rest of the film, every single step that Walter takes after that, buying the ticket to Greenland because he might find Sean. And then when he's in Greenland, all of a sudden he sees this drunk pilot that has a unique thumb on a helicopter, and he's drunk as hell, and he needs to go all the way to deliver radio parts. And then that's an immediate big jump. It went from clicking a little like button to buying a plane ticket to
jumping on a moving helicopter
to then jumping out of a moving helicopter. And so it builds up in those small little risks. It's this chaos that happens, and it's this beautiful, beautiful chaos that happens within the film. And I think that it's so important that Walter takes that chaos, and it represents in a lot of ways how life can be viewed, because a lot of times we get stagnant in our lives, and I think this film really tries to bring out this idea of what life can be, because sometimes you're stuck in that day-end job, you're stuck in school in that sense that you don't know what to do, you're stuck in a major you hate, like business or something like that, and sorry, I had to do a little shade there, but at the end of the day, you're stuck there and you want to keep going, and a lot of times it's that small risk, that small, tiny first thing that really transitions you.
And it's the entire movie just is a transition between Walter feeling powerless to powerful. And I think there's something oddly poetic about the fact that life gets taken over and acquired on his birthday. And
yes, absolutely.
I'm not much of a birthday person, but it's something about it being your special day and then being completely overthrown and acquired by someone who sucks and has a beard that sucks.
Yes.
And his face sucks.
And threatens to not just end your like your job, but and your coworkers' jobs
with a smile on his face,
happy about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of thing. And beard guy. Andrew Scott, great actor. Man, he's an annoying guy in this movie.
Yeah, it's something to be said about those actors who make you hate them just based on their characters.
Yeah.
I also wrote down here in my notes. He there's a belly of the whale moment, and
really,
he can't find Sean. He goes back to New York,
absolutely,
and immediately the color changes back to blue. And even before, in Iceland, the Papa John's that he's in, his familiar place is blue.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
wow, really?
And he goes back to life, back to blue, and he delivers the skateboard, and he takes another risk when he goes to Cheryl's house, which is, of course, bright red bricks.
Oh my
but then
god.
he runs away. But that's, you know.
I never picked up on that. Oh my god, because he does have that. Because I mean, if you know the hero's journey, you're gonna have that moment, and Walter does have that moment when he can't find. He can't find him, and he gets laid off. He loses his job. He loses everything. He loses his love life. He doesn't know what he's gonna do. And the next risk that he takes actually comes from an outside source, though.
Yeah.
It comes from his mom.
His mom, and he Google searches Afghanistan, and the picture of the mountain shows up, and the mountain has a red glow.
Is it really?
It has a red glow
really? Oh, man.
on the peaks.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it's from the Wikipedia article. It's great.
That's amazing. That's so cool.
It's one of those things where it's like, if you go into the movie with the thought of look out for red and blue, you will notice that is the only, like, the entire story is told through those two primary colors.
Oh, that's amazing. Man, I wish I had bright cones in my eyes, you know?
It's okay.
Yeah, you'll explain it for me. I appreciate
we'll watch it together,
We'll
and
watch it
I'll
together.
yell out and be super annoying about
I love it.
This movie is shot beautifully.
Yes.
Like, every single transition, every single shot, composition, everything is gorgeous.
It's done very excellently, and I think that a lot of that is a testament to the cinematographer and obviously Ben Stiller himself. So for many people, he wasn't actually meant to direct or act in this movie initially. There are different directors and different actors to start off, and Ben Stiller stepped up to the role, and it's his first time acting and directing the movie himself, and I think that he does a really, really good job. And then
Absolutely nailed
this
it.
beautiful, beautiful film. They use on-set locations in New York City, of course, and then obviously the next big location is Iceland. You would think they shot in Greenland, they didn't shoot in Greenland. They shot those Greenland shots in Iceland, but still, the film is absolutely gorgeous. The shoot in those mountains as well in Afghanistan, very, 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 very beautiful movie in terms of just nature. It's very granola, you know?
Yeah.
In a sense, granola. Like you might want to listen to some Noah Khan in the background because of how granola it is.
Absolutely. Some shots that I think are really notable is the transition at the beginning when they lost the film reel, they lost number 25, and all they have is clues to follow. They have a thumb, they have what they eventually find to be the piano, and they have a body of water, and there's this stunning transition of the water changing from the picture to the water outside of the Life magazine building, and
in the fountain, right?
Yeah, and it still has Kodak on top, and it's gorgeous, and the skateboarding scene, the bicycle scene, when all of his travels.
So also, in a testament to the film itself, I also want to talk about the music. I think whoever was the music supervisor in this film absolutely needs a raise and needs every job possible, because every song represents what's going on in Walter's life. Man on Fire, Space Oddity,
Step Out,
yes,
yeah.
Of course. And if you look into the soundtrack of this movie, you're just gonna have an amazing playlist in general because of how amazing the music is, and it's very. There's not a single song that isn't inspiring.
No, absolutely.
And I think that's actually transitioned by the score of the film, which is very mellow. It's very safe, and a lot of the film doesn't use its score. It uses the score in primarily the beginning of the film,
which is great.
Yeah, it's the blue part of the film. They don't have that Man on Fire. They don't have those Step Out. They don't have those moments of music that are coming out representing the moments of the film, and they just rather have an underlying score that is, it's a fine score, it's a good score, but it's definitely absolutely just a classical piece to be put behind the monotony of day-to-day life, and the monotony of oh my god, I'm gonna get fired, oh my god, this is happening to me kind of thing.
It's not scared to be quiet. It's
Absolutely.
not scared to take those moments of silence.
So good.
And even when emotion is high, and you would think with most other studios or most other producers or most other films would have blaring, triumphant orchestral music or horns or a mellow guitar. It's silent.
It's silent.
And it really lets you feel the actor's emotions, and that's what drives the viewing emotion, other than something like the score.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's beautiful. I do have a few questions for you.
Yeah,
There were a few things that that didn't really, I didn't understand. There were a few things that I don't get. Todd from eHarmony.
Todd from eHarmony.
I love Todd from eHarmony.
So, this film has so much comedy in it, and it's not like blatant comedy, absolutely. I think a lot of it is situational.
Yeah.
And I think that Todd, because I also don't understand Todd as a representation of anything, but I think we should just talk about it and see if we find a representation of Todd.
Yeah.
Because Todd is, for those that don't know, who have not seen the movie, Todd is the support guy from eHarmony that Walter calls, trying to get his like on Cheryl Mehoff, his love interest. And Todd's like, "You've not done anything, like, at all. I've been to Phoenix. You have? Cool." And it's played by Pat Oswalt, which is a great character. You don't know that till really, well, you can tell by his voice.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like, you can find out that in the film he's right there. And I think that in a lot of ways he comes in this idea of support for, and like representation of some, like, Walter needing to express it to someone, because the entire film he doesn't have any way to express it to anyone because it's so secretive, this secret life of Walter Mitty.
Yeah.
And the only person that is actually being able to hear his adventures, because even like all the people that he meets are one instance people. Like the helicopter pilot doesn't know who Walter is.
No.
Like the bar people don't know who Walter is. The boat people they only know him from that one instance. But Todd keeps getting this character development that he sees in this one guy that he's just trying to help. So we have him at the beginning, he's like zoning out, he's chasing his late train when he actually was in his mind, like chasing, like jumping into a burning building, saving a dog, putting a prosthetic leg on it. And Todd sees that this guy is boring. He's living a life that he's only lived in New York, barely been to Phoenix, you know? And then all of a sudden, the next time he calls him, he does a little bit further. He's like, he talks about his work, he talks about this, and then the next time he calls him, he's like, "I jumped out of a boat and like went into a running volcano. I can't talk right now, Todd."
Yeah.
And so Todd gets that transition. He's the only person that sees actively, besides like I say Walter's family, but throughout the entire movie, you see Todd always be like, "Oh my God, what's going on?" And he provides that comedy, he provides that situational relief. Because a lot of times, like, you might be like, "Oh my God, what's going on? There's so much bogging me down. He's going everywhere here," and then all of a sudden you get to see Walter just talk about it in a humorous standpoint. Because like that is crazy. In 1 week, he was going from not working like at all in like in his job, dead end job, to then jumping out of a helicopter and then going into a burning volcano, longboarding down it. You know?
Absolutely, absolutely. I initially when looking at Todd, I immediately, because I'm so hero's journey Joseph Campbell guy, I immediately think back to the older mentor or the
oh my God, yeah,
something like that. But I don't think that's necessarily true. I think Todd is there not to guide. He's kind of like, I've never been to therapy, but if I were, I do know that therapists are there not to solve all of your problems, but to give you the space to talk about what's going on in order for you to figure it out.
Yeah.
At least I think so. I've never been to therapy.
I would argue that unforeseen. I would say Sean is that like
Sean, yeah,
that old man kind of character, that guy, the guiding force. But I think that Todd almost represents an inward way for Walter to look at his moments in life. Meaning that like without Todd, Walter doesn't get to talk. Most of this movie is done alone. You know? Like, again, Walter's talking to people in the situations, don't get me wrong, but a lot of it, he doesn't really get to reflect on what he's doing. I think it's more of a storytelling aspect more than anything in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Because we want, as an audience, to see what Walter's going through, and a lot of times we don't get to vocalize it if we don't have another character to talk to.
He is the one of two characters to really see Walter's journey, you know?
Yeah, who's the other one?
There's, it's Walter and, it's, love interest Michelle.
Oh, yeah. Michelle? Cheryl.
Cheryl.
Yeah, no.
Gah, names.
Yeah, you're good.
Love interest Cheryl.
Because she does, she absolutely sees the beginning of him, too. Because he does make a move on her a little bit at the beginning of the movie. He talks to her.
She's talking to someone else,
Yeah.
but he tries.
He tries. He waves.
Yeah.
No, but I agree, and I think that Todd, and a lot of it at the end of the movie, he offers that support that I think he needed, because he at many moments was down bad, and then when he finally, almost in a lot of ways, succeeds, and he comes back, and he doesn't care that he lost his job anymore. Like finally that acceptance that he gets, because I think that when he hits that belly of the whale moment after he comes home from Iceland, he is so down. But then when he goes back to Afghanistan and comes back and he still is no further, the difference is apparent. Like,
absolutely.
So even though he's in the same situation, if he doesn't have the negative 25, which I don't know why it's number 25, and I don't know if there's any further meaning in that.
Oh man, I haven't thought about that.
But negative, because he doesn't have negative 25, when he comes back from Iceland, he's devastated. He's horrible. He feels horrible. But then when he comes back from Afghanistan and he still doesn't have negative 25, he's like, it is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look for a new job.
He's content.
And Todd's there to support that. Todd gets him cinnamon.
Todd is there to pick him up when they confiscate a flute from the airport, and he has to pick him up from TSA, and he embraces him with open arms, and he's like, "We're family now," and just gives him a big hug, and it's so funny because that's Todd from eHarmony, right?
Yep.
Like
that is my support guy.
Absolutely.
I think in a lot of ways he can almost, in some ways, maybe be viewed as a detragonist in some manner or form. But I just think that's a stretch. I think that he definitely represents a lot more of this idea of I don't know how to say it, but just like a support character throughout the entire film that gives Walter a space and ability to talk about his adventures and be able for the audience to see these adventures.
Absolutely. When I was watching it last night, I watched it with two of my friends, and they hate watching movies with me. I will scream and go crazy, and I'll be like, "Guys, look, the colors, they're pretty." But the one thing that I really want to bring up about my crazy movie watching behavior today is what I really think is the whole point of the movie, the main theme, and everything ties back to this one moment. Walter finally meets Sean atop the mountain, and he's trying to photograph a rare snow leopard.
Yeah.
And they find it, or actually, let me back up. Before the snow leopard even shows up, Sean says this quote: "Beautiful things don't ask for attention." And minutes later, the snow leopard shows up, and they look at it, and Walter's like, "Well, you gotta snap the picture?" And he says, "No, sometimes I don't." And that is immediately followed by this tiny, perfect scene where they play soccer, and it doesn't add to the plot, but it's just one of those tiny, perfect things to add all of that until all of this gets brought all the way back at the end when negative 25 turns out to be a picture of Walter, someone who's a beautiful part of life, someone who is a driving part of the entire company, and he doesn't ask for attention. He doesn't ask for anything. He is locked in his dark room basement with the one other guy in the fern.
That's another big thing is like his character in the film, in that photo, is not looking at the camera. He's looking at his work. He's looking at what makes life. It's the people. And I think that Sean O'Connor or something like that, the main character, that character's name.
Yeah, Sean.
And I think that representation is what builds up the whole movie. You know, you get this moment of clarity of what this means for Walter, and I think that, and at the end of the movie, there's a little humorous part where like we see that Walter gets that picture on the cover, and he doesn't buy it.
No.
You know, he just walks right by it with Cheryl after she's holding his hand, and she goes like, should we buy that? He's like, I just want to seem cool, and it's a funny joke, but I think that in some ways he's really trying to emulate what Sean means in that sense, that beautiful things don't ask for attention, and sometimes I don't. And it's living in that moment and really realizing like who you are, where you are, what you're doing, and I think sometimes we forget that, and I think that those two quotes are, man, they're beautiful. They really
Absolutely.
are. Yeah.
They're ones that like I really want to implement in my day today, you know, because I think it's so easy to be like, hey guys, I just did this really cool thing. How about everyone likes the gram? And just, it's stupid, you know?
Look at these 10 posts on my Instagram. Please like it. Yes, please. And like, oh, I got 200 likes today. Like, it's like TikTok, all this stuff.
Yeah, and it's one of those messages that like I really need to hear, you know? Like it's beautiful.
And so yeah, I think that ultimately like Sean as a character is that because it's unforeseen, because like, we have, and I really like that you brought the hero's journey, because it's something I really didn't think about too much. And I want to talk a little bit more about Sean as the character, because we don't see him. We see him twice in the movie, and that is riding on an airplane and then sitting down in the Himalayas.
Yeah.
And so I think as a character, well, I guess we see his like little photo like saying "come with me." You know,
Yeah.
Other than that, he is that
Call to action.
Call to action. Yeah, call to action. Literally. Oh my god. And I think he is that almost like I'm trying to think of like a sense of odyssey, but I always gotta think of a Greek mythology. But the hero's journey, in that sense, he is that character that brings Walter into that world of that risk taking, of that finding yourself, of that sometimes I don't, into that world of sometimes I don't, and it's beautiful.
It's so great.
Oh, sorry.
Ah.
Sorry, you guys all have to just gushing about like, one of our favorite movies of all time. I promise we have some cohesion here. I promise.
Yeah. Let's something that I'm gonna beat this horse as much as I can. The costume. Walter starts in blue, and he's in his blue suit and tie and all fancy until he takes. I don't want to say it's his first risk, because he flew to Greenland, he flew to ice. He took several risks, but the second he gets a costume change is when he jumps out of the helicopter. He's drenched. He needs a change of clothes.
Red sweater.
Bright red sweater.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and then after he's like, dang, we can't even find Sean anywhere. What's going on here? He goes back to New York. Blue again, right? Until he goes back to find Sean again. He's in his red jacket, red snow jacket. Yeah, it's.
Whoa! Oh my god, man, that's sick.
I kind of shot myself in the foot when I took notes on this movie, in the sense where I have a page and a whole page of notes.
He does.
Of just examples of the red and the blue and everything in between.
Oh my god, I didn't even notice that movie. Obviously I didn't notice that, but still, I didn't notice that, and that's amazing. Symbolism in this movie is beautiful. Oh my god.
Everything is symbolic.
Everything, absolutely.
I don't think anything is done on accident.
That's why I wanted to...
What's up with Todd?
What's up with Todd? What's up with negative 25?
Uh-huh.
Like, why those numbers? Like, I don't know.
Also, why does he give the longboard to Rich? Like, why he brings the longboard back? I think that's another piece it's too specific, because it doesn't seem like the type of movie to be like, oh, let's have a fun love story where it's there's a love story there.
Yeah.
But it's implemented into the story, and the longboard seems like it would have a giant, like, this is why this is here sort of moment that I can't really seem to figure out.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So I think that so for a lot of the people who don't know, Walter comes from not a broken family, a sad tragedy in his family. His dad passed away, and so Walter used to be a avid skateboarder and a big mohawk. He used to be, in a lot of ways, what he viewed Sean as, this crazy guy that would do all these things, and then bam, he needs to stop what he's doing, get a job, help his family out, and he gets into a job that he lives for like 17 years, something like that. And so Cheryl Mehoff, she is from a divorced family. She just broke up with her husband, and Rich is this young skateboarder kid that is very quiet, really not talking much. And so when Cheryl gets a phone call, that he's in the background, like skateboarding with Walter, and Walter does all these crazy tricks, and Rich sees how cool that was. And so then throughout the film, my favorite scene in the whole movie is actually that longboarding scene. I think it's absolutely beautifully shot, and just honestly just a gore, and not necessarily the most impactful story element, but I think it's a really, really beautiful shot. But that's not the point. Walter gets this longboard, and he goes down this giant hill in Iceland to go towards an active exploding volcano. And then he comes back home, and all of a sudden he gives that longboard that he did that with to Rich.
Yeah.
That crazy, amazing experience to Rich. And I think Walter, more than anything, sees a lot of himself in Rich. And he sees this young kid that's from a broken family that doesn't have all this support, really, because Cheryl doesn't really understand him. That one interaction we get with Todd, I don't know his name. Was that his husband's name? Whatever his name. Husband's name.
Oh,
Todd.
yeah,
Husband guy. He's like, honey, and he's a really rude dude.
Yeah.
I don't think that Rich is good at support. And so then Walter leaves that longboard for him. And I think it represents that this is kind of Walter almost passing on this journey that he can give to someone else. And I think that Rich as a character someone very minor and someone that doesn't really have such a strong impact. But this love story, yeah, it exists, but we don't get a kiss. We don't get this, oh, I'm chasing an airplane romantic kiss.
Yeah.
The most they do is hold hands because that's really all it is.
That's all it needs, too.
That's all it needs, absolutely. And I think that Rich is actually more of an important character to Walter than Cheryl sometimes because he wants to see this kid succeed. He wants to see this kid absolutely follow a path that he kind of lost himself on. And sure, everyone needs that journey, don't get me wrong, but I think that he wants to be that mentor to Rich as Sean might have been to him.
I think Rich sees Walter in a way that he can't see himself. Rich sees Walter the same way Walter sees Sean.
Yeah.
The passing of the skateboard.
Absolutely.
Because if I were to do every crazy thing that Walter did, I'm so sentimental. I'd be like, that longboard is mine forever. Put it in a shadow box.
Yes,
I'm not giving it to a kid.
Yeah.
Are you crazy?
And, I think that, again, beautiful things don't ask for attention. Sometimes I don't. Those ideas of, because, it's a longboard. Walter doesn't need any... Realistically, he doesn't need any use for it. He's it's not something sentimental to him at this point because he wants to pass it on. Mm-hmm. He wants to give this moment. Because again, it's something I definitely need to learn about myself in a lot of ways too. And I think a lot of Walter is something I almost strive to be in a lot of ways. Because quickly I would just be like, that's my longboard. I'm keeping it forever. And how much I would be like, I tell everyone, I jumped out of an airplane.
Yeah.
I jumped out of a helicopter. I did that. Hey, mom, dad, I jumped out of a helicopter. Hey, everyone, I jumped out of a helicopter. When I see this picture of me jumping out of a helicopter, I would do it to everyone. And I think that I want to learn, and I think Walter really wants me to learn how to be, not humble. Humble's the wrong word, but I think self-reflective. Content.
Yeah.
Content's a really good word for it. About the day-to-day life, yeah.
Because he traded the longboard for stretchy,
Stretch
Armstrong. I was going to say Howie Mandel, and I'm like, that is not Howie Mandel. Of Stretch Armstrong, yeah. God, everything is just so... It rhymes. The whole movie, it rhymes.
Everything is an impact, and I think that it's a beautiful film. And I think that a lot of the critics that look at this movie really just, hark on the comedy, because there's that one scene that a lot of people really don't like between Adam Scott's character and Walter Mitty, where they're stretching the Stretch Armstrong across New York City, but it's humorous.
I like it. It's fun.
The point of it is to showcase that Walter can't stand up to this movie. He can't.
Absolutely.
And at the end of the movie, oh my god, that's such a beautiful scene. I want to talk about. He was like, "What's our motto?" What's our motto? And actually, I can have the motto.
And he's like, I'm loving it.
Yeah. And the motto of life is to see the world, things dangerous to come, to see behind walls, to draw closer, to find each other and to feel. That is the purpose of life.
Yeah.
And the guy that is trying to shut down life or trying to be the new head of life doesn't know the motto.
Oh, yeah, 100%. And he doesn't embody the motto.
Absolutely
and
not.
At the end of the movie, Walter's beard is better than his.
Absolutely. And I think that's another important thing I wanted to reach out on is realistically that motto. And I think that's something really important because it, in a lot of ways, represents so much of what Sean says too. To see the things dangerous to come. The dangerous things that Walter goes on, jumping out of a helicopter, getting chased by a shark, going to an active volcano.
Yeah.
To then see behind walls, to draw closer, to have those connections that he has with Cheryl, with Rich, with Sean, to find each other and to feel, and he finally feels that connection with Cheryl, and that is the purpose of life, because life isn't asking for anything. And I think that we get so bogged down on I need to do this, I need to make money here, I need to show people that I'm doing this thing, I need to everyone to have this acceptance of me, and a lot of life is just finding those connections, finding yourself, and then to do those dangerous things. And those dangerous things aren't necessarily jumping out of a helicopter. Those dangerous things can be I need to switch my major.
Yeah.
I need to go to therapy. Those are dangerous things for people.
100%.
Absolutely, this movie kind of asks you to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so, God, it's just beautiful.
It completely hits you in the face that Life magazine symbolizes life as an existence,
Yeah.
Because the new guy, awful beard, he comes in, he destroys everything, but it doesn't get resolved at the end of the movie.
Nope.
Life goes on,
Yeah.
it keeps going, and there's nothing you can really do to stop it. You know?
No, Walter, it's not magical. Walter doesn't get his job back.
No, absolutely.
No, Cheryl doesn't get her job back.
Mm-mm.
Adam Scott just keeps running the thing down to a train, and there's some truth behind it. I looked it up. Life magazine did go online, and that during that same year. I think this movie says it takes place 2 years after what happened in real life, something like that.
Yeah. Okay.
But whatever, it's something along those lines, and I think that I really have a testament to Life magazine for really like almost kicking themselves in the foot for like putting themselves on this movie, being like, hey, yeah, we kind of like screwed up, like we like their magazine is really important, we kind of went online, you know, like
Yeah.
well, Time magazine and all these other magazines are still there, and I think that it's a good testament to Life as a brand. I think it's really a side tangent, but beside the point, I think that the meaning of that quote, that motto, is again that idea of these three quotes that kind of represent everything in the movie of just living and taking those risks and living and having connections, because man, it doesn't really heckin' matter what other people think, like all these negative people, because at the end of the day, he had like the eHarmony thing, he has like nothing on his profile, then as soon as he has all these things on profile, 800 likes, your profile has been viewed so many times. That doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it doesn't
absolutely.
matter.
He deletes his account immediately after that sentence.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's important because, yeah, we're in a day and age where I think this movie came out in 2014, 2016? Something like that. Maybe
I can look while you...
2012, yeah. And I think that this idea of, like, social media was not as big back then, and I think that we can take a lot of what we have nowadays into this, because, man, you know how many times I post on Instagram to be like, I want people to like this, or I post on TikTok being like, this is such a funny TikTok video about this cool thing I did, I want people to like this, and I'm not making it for myself.
Yeah.
And at this point, it's like, I really want, like in a lot of ways, not just myself, but everyone to like be like, it doesn't matter, you know, like all these influencers, all this stuff doesn't matter, because it's just what matters is you. And
Exactly.
it's sure, if your motto in like what you want to do in life is to be an influencer, sure, whatever. But I think that this movie really demands just live.
Yeah.
Live.
And it's funny because most of the seemingly exaggerated aspects of life in 2013 when the movie was released are real today, you know? Like that influencer lifestyle is kind of played up as a joke, as like, oh, who would do this in that, in like all these extremist examples, but that's kind of how it is today.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's absolutely
like,
how
if Kylie Jenner jumped out of the helicopter, you already know that she'd be putting that on her TikTok immediately. You know?
Yeah.
And it's that kind of thing that the only time we ever able to see that in Walter is when we see it in the movie. The only time he ever mentions it is on his work profile for when people need to hire him again.
Yeah, on
like, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Like it's the only time that people, his new resume, and that's, I think that's a very big testament. That he's not showing off.
No.
He's just being like, I did this. Period.
And it's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh God. Sorry. We're gushing about this movie, and I love this movie, and I think there's so much symbolic and so much like poetism in this movie, and I think that if you take anything away from this podcast, just like go home today, watch it. It's, if you can't like find it anywhere to stream, rent it. Like it is so worth it. I own this movie. Like I own 2 copies of the movie, Blu-ray and just regular. And I think that it's such an important movie. And I think this one thing, if you're traveling anytime soon, absolutely watch the movie on a plane. It is it hits hard on a plane.
Here's the one thing I'll say about that. I'm gonna get anecdotal. A few years ago, me and a buddy watched this, and he didn't want to rent it, and he's like, "Why don't we just pirate it? Don't pirate it. You don't want to watch it at 720p.
No,
okay, you need to watch
no.
this in the highest quality you can find.
Yes.
Rent it. DM me. I'll send you $4. It's okay."
Honestly, yes, I will too.
Like,
if you DM me, like I will Venmo you $4. It is chilling.
It is that good.
It is that good of a movie that I think that you deserve to watch it, and I think that, oh my God, and I really think if you have the opportunity, if you're flying anywhere anytime soon, if you're flying anywhere, bring your phone or bring your tablet or get a plane that has those TVs and watch it on the
Maybe an OLED screen.
Yes, honestly, that'd be so cool.
That would be,
because it's such a deserving movie for being in that moment of like traveling. Cause all right, our camera aside, but yeah, we're all good. And then I think that it's just such a beautiful movie to watch on that sense of traveling, and that sense of just wanting to be somewhere. Because it is a traveling movie in a lot of ways, and I think that's really cool. But yeah,
now that we're getting
anecdotal.
Yeah, super anecdotal. You traveled recently. Do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, I do. So Walter Mitty travels to Iceland in this movie, and this past summer I took a trip and I followed kind of every single place that he went to in Iceland.
Yeah.
And so I know we're kind of like breaking the path of like not wanting to talk about all this stuff, but I think that is important to talk about in a lot of ways. Walter Mitty really wanted, because for those who know me personally, I am very much, it's super anecdotal, I very much don't take risks. I've lived in Flagstaff for now 5 years, and I just did all these very simple things, got an RA job, did all like simple tasks, and I never traveled. I never wanted to do anything special. And so I was like, man, screw it, I'm gonna travel. And I bought a ticket to Iceland a month before I was going to head out. And I just did it. I left and I took a plane trip to Iceland, bought the rental car the week before, did Airbnbs as I did hostels, and I traveled all throughout Iceland. And I brought a longboard, which I actually have with me, and I went down the same hill Walter Mitty went down. I absolutely wanted to go everything that he did. I saw every location he saw, and I just wanted to do this exploration. I wanted to do this life, and I wanted to do dangerous things. I wanted to do things I'd never done before. I hiked a glacier, I jumped down a glacier. I went in frigid waters to snorkel between continents. And I know I'm trying to show off. I really am not. I really just want to express that this journey was something that I did because of Walter, and I want to keep living my life like that. And sure, like that journey that I did, that going to Iceland, seeing all the places that he did was amazing and beautiful, and I really took a lot of pictures, and I had such a great time. But the reason I went was for myself, and I really found a lot of like what myself meant in that moment, because Walter Mitty and Sean and everyone in the movie and life in general is so much about doing those dangerous things to make those connections with people. And I really think that this year is being like that transitional period in my life where I can do those things, and I'm scared. Oh, I'm so scared as heck. Oh my God, I'm so terrified of life. But man, I'm also excited because the meaning of life is to see those dangerous things, to make those connections with people. So I'll read the whole quote again. It is to do those dangerous things as they come, to see behind those walls, to draw everyone closer, and to find each other and to feel. Like, that is the meaning I'm trying to discover from life. And man, I love this movie. I'm absolutely gonna get a tattoo from this movie. Oh my God, I love it. But yeah, thank you, Andy, for letting me talk about that.
Oh, absolutely. I love all of the little setup and payoffs that are scattered throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
Of course, one of the most influential ones is Walter's dad gave him a travel journal, and he never used it. He was scared to take the leap. He and his sister's like, why don't you donate it? And then the mom's like, nah, I keep all of Walter's little things like that.
Yeah.
And when he goes after Belly of the Whale, he goes. He got fired, but he's still trying to look for Sean. It shows him inscribing on. Is that the right word?
Yeah, inscribing. Absolutely.
Yeah, let's go. It shows him inscribing on the writing in the journal, and then it shows up on screen, and it's so beautiful. Only to find out at the end of the movie, it's paid off by his mom being like, "Oh, I keep all of your things. Here's the wallet you threw in the trash."
Yep.
With the gel inside.
That's actually a really good point. I didn't think about like a lot of the things he writes. Like, one of the things I remember very distinctly is "I am alone now."
Yeah.
He writes that when he's in the Himalayas, and because he had like, I have these two warlocks with me. I gave them my mom's cake. It's like, in some ways it's meant to be humorous, don't get me wrong, but I think in a lot of ways it's also just meant to be like, oh, hey, I'm doing this thing, and this is like super cool, and I'm writing in this travel journal that at the beginning of the movie, my sister told me to throw away.
Yeah.
And his sister also, this is, before we run out of time, what is the whole deal with Grease and her being in that movie?
Oh, being Lizzo? Oh, Lizzo. Man, I haven't thought about that.
Lizzo, I have no idea.
Here's a quick confession for everyone listening. I don't like Grease.
You don't like Grease?
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it.
I've never seen Grease.
Ah, perfect.
So I wanted to be like, oh my God, you've never seen Grease? No, I just don't. I've never seen it.
I don't know. I think it's something to be said about her. Again, if I was like a huge Grease fan and have seen it a million times, maybe I'd be able to pick something up. I think in a lot of ways it can be passion. It can be like the same idea of passion. Is that Walter kind of scoffs at the idea their entire time. He's like, my sister is Lizzo and Grease. What are you auditioning for? Why are you here? All this stuff. Yeah.
Mom's cake. Stretch Armstrong. I don't like this. And she gives him Stretch Armstrong. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And in the entire movie, he then asks oh my God. He asked Cheryl to go on a date to Greece. To see. Oh my God. Oh, that's so cool. That's actually so cool because I kind of didn't think of it until now. But like, in a lot of ways, his sister subtly was supporting him for the whole movie.
Yeah.
And then he finally goes to support her.
Because if it weren't for getting the Stretch Armstrong, he wouldn't have gotten the longboard. He wouldn't have made it. He wouldn't have almost been killed by a volcano.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have been picked up in the car. He wouldn't have, He
wouldn't have had all those emotions and all those feelings that he gained from the movie. Because I don't think if he didn't longboard, because that was one of the very few times where he had no outward influences. Because the helicopter, he had Cheryl to help him. Yeah. Jumping out of the helicopter, he had like the pilot to help him, the people on the boat to help him. The longboard was only himself.
Yeah.
And I think if he didn't make that decision, didn't have that longboard in the first place,
Yeah.
he would have never been able to do whatever he did.
And even the bike scene before, he's talking to the two guys, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you need to. That's the only bike in town, and there's a bunch of sailors that want, you know."
And so I think that, like, his sister also subtly supported him about the film, and I think that's really important. And I think that I didn't even talk about that much, but I don't even remember his sister's name at this point. But I think ultimately every character has a very impactful moment. Even his co-worker, as someone supporting him, Todd. Obviously, Beardman is the antagonist, and we have Sean as the supporting. And his mom absolutely is that almost like savior. And I think that every character in this film is so symbolic and poetic, and I think that if you really look into it, this movie is transcending. It really represents so much more than just being a movie. And I think a lot of times we watch a movie like, not to rag on these popular blockbusters nowadays, because they have their moments, but it just kind of feels like a movie to be a movie to make money. And I think that we kind of lost in a lot of ways this very impactful moment that we get from these like smaller blockbusters. This was a blockbuster at its time; it made a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I think that we need these back in our days because it's such a representation of what it means to live. And I think that we lose a lot of that in our movies nowadays. I mean, don't get me wrong, we have small indie studios that are doing amazing things, and we have a lot of amazing movies that are coming out nowadays. I'm not to rag on it. Some of my favorite movies have come out in this last year.
Yeah.
But I think that ultimately, I really, really love this movie, and I think that more movies need to be made like it that are really a representation of life rather than trying to make a buck.
Yeah, the state of modern cinema is something that I can talk about for hours and hours and hours and hours.
Yes.
But I think for now I'll say in the past few years, I can only think of a few movies that have made me feel the way Walter Mitty has,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
And that's a feeling that I want more. I want, I remember when I was a kid, I would watch movies with my older brother all of the time, and I remember whenever the movie would end and the credits would roll, during the credit song, we would act out what we just saw, you know?
Yeah.
Like I very distinctly remember Kung Fu Panda specifically.
Uh-huh.
I was watching that at age however old, like 8 or 9, and the scene where he's like, every time he threw a brick at me, said I wasn't good enough, it hurt, but it didn't hurt more than just being me, or something like that, you know? And DreamWorks, in that specific instance, had so much heart into that movie, and not to rag on DreamWorks, but that heart isn't always there, you know?
No,
There's...
absolutely not. And I think that if you're listening to this and you can gather anything from this, is that this movie is so impactful to both of us.
Absolutely.
And I think that really, really, please just watch it. Watch it this week. Watch it sometime watch it at one moment that you just need something to do. You don't have anything to do. You don't want to watch that new episode of Ahsoka. You need to just watch.
Yeah.
Just watch Secret Life of Walter Mitty.
Watch it now! Turn off the radio!
Yeah, turn off. Stop listening to us. Go watch it now. Go home from work, and then just bam, watch that movie and have a good time. And then DM us on our Instagram, either our personal Instagrams or our Instagram. Please DM us and let us know how you feel. And if you really strapped for cash, DM me personally. I will give you the $4.
We'll Venmo you
I will give
you have to watch the movie.
It's such a good movie. But yeah,
I have a feeling that this is gonna be a thing that we say
every
every week.
week.
It's like...
You need to watch these movies. These are so good. We should talk about one bad movie one time, just so we can have something that you don't watch.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, but yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Do I have anything else to say?
I am too. Well, I think just for closing remarks is, I don't extremely know what I'm talking about. I'm
Neither
gonna
do
start
I.
with that. I'm however old. I'm 19.
I'm only 23. You know.
But if you have the ability to do what makes you happy, then go for it. You know, I know it's scary. I know you're scared or tired or lonely. I know it takes a lot of work to get up in the morning, to keep your head up, to keep going. But if I'm gonna quote Kid Cudi for a second, every scar tells a story, and every story the hero gets lonely, you know, and that's not gonna be the only time I quote Kid Cudi on this show, probably. But yeah, is there anything else that you want to add?
Take a risk.
Take a risk, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, have a good one, y'all.
Thank you so much for listening, and we'll be here next week from 1 to 2.
1 to 2. Awesome.
Have a good one.